The biggest transfer of this era is knocking on your door. The square meters of your soul are expanding. Your sphere of influence is being redrawn on the maps. I have waited. Now is the time, says the infinite source, breaking seal after seal to bring down the heavenly relics. Get ready. Put 777 in the comments now, because this deed is not just for stone and earth, but for your vision, your lineage, and the generations that will follow. Imagine an old lighthouse squatting on a rocky point where two oceans collide, its paint peeling, lantern glass cracked, iron stairs groaning with rust. Yet every hurricane that rolls in off the water veers just enough to spare that beacon. Waves leap sky high, wind wails, but an invisible hand cups that fragile tower, whispering, "Hold your ground." Guidance still beats in your lamp. Beloved, that lighthouse is you. The storms paced off their fury, measured your coordinates, and still could not claim what heaven ensured. Imagine a tiny mustard seed. Nobody bothers to sweep off the cracked sidewalk, yet inside that speck sleeps an entire grove. That's what heaven planted in you, friend, and no amount of foot traffic can stomp it silent. Folks stuck sticky labels on your jacket, twisted your words into carnival mirror shapes, and stood around predicting the grand failure they just knew was coming. They didn't count on the fact that your spiritual wiring runs straight to God's main breaker box. The current of grace surges through every fiber of your being, and there's no meter the critics can shut off, no overdue notice hell can slap on your door. They piled complaints like concrete blocks, trying to weigh down your calling, but the word has this wild habit of turning dead weight into a stepping stone. Each accusation got mortared into the rising stairway beneath your feet. Every sideways glance became fresh lumber in the platform Providence kept stretching higher, until the view from your victory made their insult tower look like a backyard shed. Now, I know you felt the spray of salt in your wounds, words hurled sharp as seashells, gossip ripping across your identity like a rogue gust. You tasted bitterness and had to swallow back the urge to answer fire with fire. But friend, you weren't rescued to trade punches. You were preserved to raise beacons. God didn't spare the lighthouse so it could mock the storm. He spared it to guide sailors home. Your testimony isn't a scorecard, it's a roadmap. The energy you could spend clapping back is better spent clapping on lights for travelers who still think nightfall means navigation's over. See, your story is bigger than rebuttal. You're the living blueprint of resilience, the walking evidence that slander doesn't outrank assignment. Integrity beams off you like radio frequency. Policy changes when you step into a boardroom because systems can't out-corrupt persistent excellence. Family grudges soften when you sit at the table because you carry mercy the way a rose carries fragrance. You don't force it, you simply release it and watch the atmosphere shift. Ministries once wandering without voice find new cadence because your scars preach louder than polished rhetoric. You're not just shaking off smear campaigns, you're drafting chapters of destiny in letters so bold, even doubters can't mispronounce them. Let's tell the truth. The wind did try. It tore shingles from your roof of confidence, rattled the windows of your hope, and flung debris against every corner of your self-worth. But every gust that pushed became proof of a deeper anchor. Others asked how you kept shining when fuel seemed low. What they couldn't see was the underground pipeline of grace feeding your lamp. Grace is unmetered. It runs like an artesian well, rising whenever pressure mounts. You didn't conjure that flow, you just refused to kink the hose with unbelief. You stayed open, and heaven kept pouring. That's why policies will shift. Because people in power catch sight of a soul anchored that deep, and they sense stability money can't buy. They'll rewrite handbooks to match the ethical blueprint they spy in your day-to-day walk. That's why families heal. Because grudges grow tired in the heat of consistent kindness. They melt like frost on windshield glass once the sun gets intentional. That's why visionless congregations find compass points. Because a survivor's testimony draws new contours on the map of possibility, and wanderers discover there's still a North Star above the clouds. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. So take joy, yes, real joy, in the fact that their mud didn't stick. Their labels lost adhesive because your identity came factory sealed by the manufacturer. You've been pre-approved from Genesis, quality checked by Calvary, shipped under angel escort, and delivered right on schedule into this generation. If someone tries to rebrand what God already trademarked, they'll find the paperwork rejected in heaven's court. And don't fear future storms. Hurricanes keep the lighthouse humble, but they also keep it essential. Mariners don't hunt for lamps on calm days. They need them when visibility drops. Likewise, the world scans the horizon for unwavering lights when culture's fog rolls thick. Stand tall. You're not perfect, but you're positioned. You might creak under gale force gossip, but you won't crack. Providence drew a boundary at your foundation reading, not this cornerstone, purpose still under construction. Remember the scarecrow of your old memories. Replace that straw man with this sturdy lighthouse image and feel the shift. A scarecrow absorbs assaults passively, but a lighthouse actively pierces night. You weren't built to look intimidating. You were built to be illuminating. Your radiance isn't bluster, it's guidance. And guidance is love in navigational form. Love that points home, love that warns of rocks, love that says, keep sailing, there's land ahead. I hear someone saying, but preacher, I'm tired. I know. Bulbs burn hot and keepers climb steep steps just to maintain that lens. Yet just as the keeper has oil, you have unction. Daily renewal, mercies new every sunrise, strength swapping in when fatigue tries to evict it. There's a refill ritual in heaven's supply room. Step in, trade ashes for beauty, pick up peace like fresh wick, set it inside your spirit, and light it with gratitude. Watch discouragement retreat the way night retreats at first light. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Let's address the critics one last time. They hoped your light would expose their darkness so they could shout, "See, it blinds us." But all exposure ever intended was healing. A surgeon can't mend what he can't see. The brilliance you carry will eventually read as invitation for anyone brave enough to exit the cave. Some will run deeper into shadows, others will step toward glow and find life abundant. Your job is not to chase them, it's to keep shining. So polish that lens. Polish it with worship, with forgiveness, with accountability. Polish it with wisdom that grows in the soil of endurance. Let God aim the beam wherever He pleases. He might swivel you toward bureaucratic halls one day and crack house alleys the next. Same light, different harbor, Trust the keeper with the rotation schedule. He sees the whole coastline. This is why you outlasted the smear, because destiny needed a steady beacon on that exact promontory. They tried to pull wiring, shatter bulbs, smear soot on the glass, but none of those tactics cancelled sunrise. When dawn broke, all their sabotage looked petty against a sky ablaze with promise. Embrace the mantle. Don't shrink because the brightness feels conspicuous. Darkness never apologizes for being dark. Why should light apologize for radiance? Step up, stand tall, rotate that beam across waves of uncertainty, and know every pulse of luminance is a sermon without words. There's still hope. There's still harbor. There's still home. Picture a battered scarecrow standing in the middle of an endless wheat field, sun-bleached hat flapping, straw wrists outstretched. Yet each time a storm rolls in, lightning swerves away as if an unseen hand redirects the charge. That's you, beloved, an ordinary-looking sentinel cloaked in heaven's extraordinary insulation. Folks convinced themselves they'd watch you burn to cinders under the next thunderclap, but the bolts keep bending wide, testifying that straw in God's wind is stronger than steel in the wrong hands. They bragged in hushed circles about the date your pulse would flatline. They penciled a neat little dash after your name on their color-coded calendars, daring to imagine your laughter fading like a radio station slipping into static at the county line. Cousins who once pinched your cheeks at Sunday picnics chartered quiet meetings with professionals whose smiles never reached their eyes. They whispered about inevitable conclusions, about cost-effective outcomes, all while passing manila envelopes stuffed with dry statistics meant to squeeze eternity into a spreadsheet. They treated your timeline like a parking meter. Drop in a few coins of gossip, watch the seconds dwindle, and wait for the grim attendant to write the ticket. Yet the Almighty, whose breath can unroll galaxies like carpets, leaned over the railing of eternity and rewound their ticking countdown. Where they heard the second hand scurry towards zero, heaven inserted a holy rest note, an extended pause that made the enemy's orchestra miss its cue. The cardiogram they expected to buzz flat instead skipped into a brand new rhythm, thumping revelation strong beneath your ribs. Medical monitors blinked surprised green instead of fatal red, and nurses trained to walk softly around final breaths found you sitting upright, quoting scriptures they hadn't memorized since vacation Bible school. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. Don't miss the humor of God in this. They booked a venue for your memorial, but the florist delivered living lilies that refused to wilt on schedule. They pre-ordered the slideshow set to tear-jerker piano, but the USB drive corrupted itself the moment they plugged it in, leaving only a bright blue screen announcing no photo data found. Heaven is not just in the saving business, it's in the comedic timing business too, showing every would-be undertaker that divine punchlines land heavier than funeral drums. And it wasn't just the schemers in the boardroom or the relatives in tight collars. Bureaucrats with gold seals on their letterhead wagered political capital on your expiration. They drafted legislation, scheduled press releases, and queued up replacement candidates, certain your absence would open a seat at their banquet. Consultants compiled binders thick as prophecy, calculating how to repurpose your life's work the moment you went offline. They saw your existence as a lamp they could snuff, harvest the remaining warmth, and claim the glow was theirs all along. Heaven grinned, struck the match, and turned that lamp into a lighthouse whose beam now sweeps every shoreline they hoped to privatize. While they carved your epitaph, you kept sowing kindness in secret. You handwrote encouragement on post-it slid under cubicle walls, prayed over strangers in grocery aisles, and tipped baristas until their eyebrows shot heavenward. Those seeds germinated underground, invisible to the prognosticators scribbling margins around your obituary. Roots spread through places their audits never touch. Heart chambers, memory vaults, spiritual ecosystems, and when the moment of certain closure arrived, those seedlings erupted through asphalt, shattering every tidy projection. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Let's park right here. The miracle isn't simply that you outlived their expectation, it's that you outloved their intention. God spared you so you could become a fountain in the middle of their drought. Your survival is not petty vengeance, it's portable mercy. Policies will realign because your uncompromised integrity broadcasts on frequency spreadsheets can't jam. Family rifts will stitch themselves closed because your voice, anointed and battle-tested, carries a resonant grace that rebalances whole atmospheres. Congregations stuck in fog will navigate by your testimony like sailors by Polaris, because your story shouts that crucibles are doorways, not graves. Now the same relatives who thought your lifeline would snap are wrestling with holy cognitive dissonance. They keep flipping the pages of their planners, searching for the appointment with your demise that heaven erased. Each time they stumble over the blank space, a still, small whisper rises. Maybe Providence holds the pen. Office politicos who budgeted your demise must now itemize your continued influence as an unforeseen variable. Universities that earmarked funds to study your case must rewrite curricula around the phenomenon they feared, faith outrunning prognosis. Hear me, you are not required to apologize for thriving beyond their timeline. Stand tall like that scarecrow. Yes, straw shoulders and all, watching thunderheads scatter like startled crows. You didn't requisition the protection. Heaven fitted it to you. So walk back into boardrooms, family gatherings, and sanctuaries with a calm authority that confounds statisticians. Smile with gentle eyes. Let them taste the peace that outlived their predictions. Then open both palms and pour out blessing where they expected bitterness, because nothing short-circuits slander faster than kindness untethered from fear. Will some claim your resilience is staged? Absolutely. Critics will theorize about misdiagnosed data, lucky breaks, or backroom deals. Smile anyway. A lighthouse doesn't dim itself to argue with boats that doubt the shoreline. It just keeps on flashing, one faithful beam at a time. Eventually, the most skeptical captain checks the map and admits the signal never lied. And while you keep beaming, something larger is unfolding. Others marked for premature cancellation will catch sight of your survival and realize the calendar isn't their warden, but their witness. They'll borrow courage from your chapter and write footnotes in their own margins. If they can stand, so can I. People you've never met, night shift drivers, weary caretakers, teenage dreamers, will browse headlines and find your name still alive where a death notice was forecast. In that instant, hopelessness will lose its footing in their souls. Make no mistake, the planners with fresh ink funerals will attempt revisions. They'll circle new dates, propose updated formulas, recruit fresh analysts. Let them try. The same God who flipped the hourglass before is not short on sand. Time itself bows to the author of ages, and he has already penciled triumph into chapters they can't access. So breathe deep. Your lungs are a testimony. Each inhale is a line of script God refused to cut from the final edit. Each exhale is evidence that the director still rolls film when lesser producers call, "That's a wrap." Stroll past the shelves where they filed your predicted demise and chalk a bright check mark beside the word "surpassed." Then add a footnote in royal ink. Not by might, nor by power, but by spirit. Cherish the silence that follows, the stunned hush in corridors where they once plotted in smug cadence. It's not the quiet of defeat, it's the reverent pause before a standing ovation. Angels lean over balconies of glory, applauding the plot twist, and heaven invites you to take a bow, not because you demanded the spotlight, but because endurance makes heroes out of servants. Finally, remember this blueprint: saved to bless, spared to share, healed to heal. Your schedule isn't extended merely for victory laps, it's elongated so you can shepherd others to stable ground. Speak life into boardrooms, write reconciliation into family texts, sing vision over churches caught in echo chambers of yesterday. Your timeline is a scaffold heaven, erected for mass restoration. The betrayal stings sharper when it carries your last name. A mother who once rocked you to sleep now rocks boardroom chairs conspiring against your tomorrow. Brothers you taught to ride bicycles traced your commute with satellite-grade precision. The living room, where birthday candles once flickered, became the headquarters of the plot. Smiles at Sunday dinner covered fresh ink on paperwork designed to siphon everything you've earned. Their sabotage slithered through the court system like dye through clear water. Affidavits signed by hands you trusted, bank withdrawals you never authorized, clerical mistakes that always managed to bleed in their favor. They stretched continuances until calendar squares bled into one another, stalling just long enough, they hoped, for your pulse to quit the conversation. Yet truth stockpiled its receipts, hidden camera timestamps, IP addresses that refused to forget, parking lot security feeds, cataloging clandestine huddles, deleted texts resurrected in cloud archives, anonymous tipsters ready to speak once you inhale on the witness stand. Every fragment of their gambling spree glows like neon against midnight. Their bravado has curdled into sleepless frenzy. Corporate credit cards maxed out on vacations they prepaid with inheritance you were supposed to leave behind. Quick sale listings popping up on real estate sites, silent auctions for jewelry bought on hope of your disappearance. Prescription bottles rattling louder each night as panic takes the driver's seat. Now investigators assemble the jigsaw. A detective catches an odor of contradiction. A forensic accountant flags a trail of golden crumbs. A coroner squints at toxicology inconsistencies. The puzzle pieces rotate into clear focus, and the image forming is their collective mugshot. Still, caution is your companion. Photograph strange tire tracks outside your driveway. Log every unsolicited gift. Double bolt the doors and smudge the thresholds, for a cornered animal bites harder. Their failure has not pacified them. It has mutated their desperation. Soon, the docket they feared transforms from threat to guillotine. Subpoenas carry the weight of anvils. Frozen assets choke their cash flow. Polite society whispers behind manicured palms. Neo-chasers of clout will find their invitations revoked. Once silent partners draft immunity deals. The empire of pretense fractures tile by tile. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Remember, document everything. Hard drives mirrored in off-site vaults, journal entries stamped with daily news headlines, video diaries sealed in cloud redundancy. Truth fortified is truth that cannot be negotiated away. Beyond the human courtroom stands a higher bench. The energy they flung, like poisoned darts, arcs back along cosmic corridors, velocity multiplied. Strange rashes, engines that won't turn, deals that evaporate at signature. Karma is simply physics, with soul attached, and the equation has begun to balance. Hospitals will chart nervous breakdowns among key conspirators. Realtors will watch desperate price drops on mansions only hubris could afford. Board resignations will hit headlines with personal reasons as catch-all cloak. Each tremor announces the main quake. Your guardians, grandmothers who prayed in languages unrecorded, ancestors who crossed oceans clutching battered Bibles, hover at your shoulders. Their DNA pulses in your marrow, whispering tactical wisdom across centuries. Nightmares visit your enemies, featuring stern silhouettes they cannot name yet cannot dismiss. Between this moment and the gavel's strike, time serves as refinery. Layers of deceit peel away like paint in desert heat, exposing raw boards beneath. Investigators will trace bank wires to shell companies, then to straw men, then straight to the mastermind who thought distance equaled safety. Cosmic law, older than marble courthouses, has already typed the verdict. Harm recoils upon origin. Greed hollows its own pockets. Violence ricochets. Every curse returned, postage paid. You need only stand upright. Gravity does the rest. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. As the calendar ticks toward the day they dreaded, watch for omens, emergency board meetings, last-minute wire transfers to offshore accounts, press releases thick with euphemism. These are the flares of surrender before the white flags rise. When bailiffs call your name, you will walk that aisle, breathing victory into recycled courtroom air. Your testimony will roll out like thunder over summer fields, shaking settled dust. Juries will lean forward. Judges will adjust spectacles. Reporters will scribble furiously. Your voice, tempered by furnace, carries the ring of anvils, the unmistakable timbre of unkillable truth. Financial penalties will drain their ill-gotten reservoirs. Civil suits will garnish wages they haven't earned yet. Properties intended as monuments to their triumph will auction for pennies to fund restitution. Reputations manicured for decades will unravel in a weekend newscast. Do not shrink from the unmasking's glare. Your endurance births precedent. The blueprint you draft today will guide others tomorrow, those still gaslit, still hunted, still doubting their discernment. Your survival turns rumor into roadmap, converting cautionary tale into case study. Breathe easy, but stay alert. The final strokes of darkness often swing widest, yet each trap sprung tightens only around its maker's ankle. Your assignment is to walk through, collect the splintered weapons, and melt them into instruments of rebuilding. The gavel will drop soon, but understand, that sound signals commencement, not conclusion. From the rubble of their collapsed intentions, you will sculpt policies that favor integrity, infuse kinships with reconciliation, and steer congregations toward visions unmarred by ego. You rise from target to template, from nearly silenced witness to amplifier of justice. Your life's ink has never been relegated to a period, only commas separating chapters. And this courtroom drama, merely prologue to a renaissance authored in heaven, published on earth, and impossible to redact.